Hello, this is Aurelia Davis, the educator's educator, coming to you. And it's been a minute, but I'm back. I'm back. I just want to give you, if you're not, this is your first time coming on with me, my name is Aurelia Davis, and I'm a former Chicago public school teacher with over 30 years experience. I've been working with Chicago public schools, and I taught third grade, but my major is early childhood, and then my master's is teacher leadership. So the teacher leadership is what drives me to get on with you and hopefully, encourage or stimulate or motivate teachers to stay in the field of education, because right now it's emptying out and we don't need that to completely happen. And if that happens, then they may come back and try to get me. You're not going to have that. But anyway, I just wanted to come to you today because in the next couple of weeks, I have basically been investigating and researching different trends that are going on in the field of education. I recently joined Education Week, which is a platform that I think comes out of, I'm not forget what state it comes out of, but it's a subscription. And what they do is they basically give you a lot of information on the trends of what's happening with education from week to week, week to week, week to week, month to month, year to year. They in the past couple of weeks, they talked about the teacher shortage. They even talked about the student shortage in public schools, and that's the type of thing where they, a lot of districts are really concerned about, because of course their funding comes in with the amount of children that are in those particular seats. So we want to basically get to the point where we are trying to stimulate teachers to stay in the field of education, and at the same time stimulate children to get back into the public sector of being taught. Being that this is almost the pre-end of the pandemic, you can still understand why a lot of individuals are still not coming, and it's still somewhat reluctant into going into back into the classroom. And I would be honest and say that if I had a child back in school, I probably would be concerned also. But they're trying to make things better, and it's a day-to-day process. It's an hour-to-hour process. So we just have to be patient and get children back where they are. The children want to be in school. Okay, they enjoy their friends and their colleagues. They want to be in school. They like the environment of not being at home all the time. Yeah, it is. It is what it is. And so they are anxious about being in school. So that's something that we want to basically help them with, because if they are happy, they learn better. Let's be honest. If they're happy, they do learn better, which is a positive thing. So my from going back to Education Week, I noticed an article that says how to re-energize teachers and students this school year. So I did pull down the article, and it's talked about how the beginning of a school year is always a lot of uncertainty. I would get somewhat anxious about going back into my building just to get started. I motivated myself to get started. Of course, I didn't like short summers, but that had nothing to do with what I was doing as far as teaching is concerned. And so I would be excited about the children that are going to be coming into my classroom. And I had a tendency of sort of leveling down my activities coming into getting ready for that particular first day. So I would find myself relaxing a whole lot, at home, and not necessarily ripping and running and ripping and things like that. So I found myself basically relaxing, crocheting, knitting, doing art, reading a book, listening to a book, looking at movies. I found myself doing that at least a week before I started back with the classroom, because I felt that I needed as much energy as possible, and I didn't want to, be over anxious. I didn't want to create anxiety. So I found myself calming myself down at least a week before. And then once I did get back into the classroom, those first couple of days, I would find myself, because not a lot, let's just admit, a lot is not going on the first couple of, at least the first week of school. You're basically getting into scheduling, so on and so forth and whatever. And teachers, believe you me, you'll have enough time to teach what you need to teach. Okay. You'll have enough time. So don't go in there panic mode and go, I found myself for basically the last 6 or 7 years of my teaching career, setting up a fantastic classroom management plan in the beginning, at least for about 2 or 3 weeks. I would take my children and we would just learn particular cues and things that basically would get us through the classroom day, turning out the lights, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 countdown, walking them in the halls. And I mean, this was good for preschool. This was good for kindergarten all the way up to 8th grade. You had to learn how to manage those individuals that were now in your classroom that may not know you. So you knew what your platform was going to be in your classroom, but your children did not. And so to just throw a lot of things at them in the beginning is not good, and it's not going to be successful. So I found myself continuing my regimen of relaxing in the classroom, allowing the students to relax, to get used to that particular environment, because that was very beneficial to them in the long run. That was very beneficial to them. So I would start teaching literally the third week. I would start literally teaching the third week. Not saying that nothing was going on in the classroom, but what I would do also is we would go through our particular books in science, reading, social studies, and math, and we would just get used to those particular books and see what they offered. So I would let the children look at the books when we would go through particular lessons and things like that. And then, of course, I always would have some drills and things like that, especially with third grade. I wanted to know if they knew their math facts, as far as addition and subtraction. So I would even do some skill buildings in those, sight words and so on and so forth for children. And so that's what the first 3 weeks of my schooling looked like. That's exactly what it looked like. And then once I had them acclimated to my particular environment, then what I would do is I would start teaching. And I found that to be very beneficial to me and my students, because by that time they were ready. They were ready. We had the scheduling down pat. They knew exactly what the morning exercises were going to be. They knew what we were going to do in the middle, before lunch, after lunch, recess, and how we were going to end the day. And as long as though they knew exactly what was going to happen, that gave me a little bit more flexibility to be more relaxed. And then we started the grudge work and the drudgery of learning, which can be hard, but we made it relaxing. It was a relaxing thing. So I usually started my real teaching in about the third week of school. So, the uncertainties are still in place because of the pandemic, and different school districts are doing different things, but they're still being very cautious, which is very good to do. We're still being very cautious. And as a teacher, I would still keep masks in my classroom. I would keep some mask in my classroom. I would keep hand sanitizer in my classroom. I would try to clean up my classroom on a regular basis, because you cannot just assume that every child has been vaccinated, has received the vaccine, or every family has received it. So you as a teacher, to keep yourself healthy, the vitamins and all of those types of things, those are things that you need to be also on, and make it a religious thing to take, those vitamins that basically keep your resistance up. So it says during Education Week, K through 12 Essentials Forum, where they had a forum on August 18th. The big picture theme centered around the question, amid all the challenges, that what could schools do to start this year strong? And I'm just going to mention some of them, because these are things that you as an educator can just continue to practice throughout the school year. And they said, first of all, we're energizing teachers, we're energizing our students. They said, how to help students feel safe and connected. I'll say that title again, how to help students feel safe and connected. And they said that the school safety is a broad topic, emphasizing that it isn't about securing physical buildings. School safety is also about whether students feel like they belong. you know. And like those first 3 weeks, I said, I use those first 3 weeks to get to know my children, to get to know my students, to recognize their faces. I would even take the time to sit down with each particular child and just sort of see where their mindset was. And you can do that with the youngest ones. You can do that with the older ones, talking about journaling and just sharing things throughout the day and in the morning and whatever. What happened to you on the weekend? What did you do last night? Those types of things. The better you get to know your students, the ones that are sitting in front of, the better you'll know how to teach them. I'll say that again. The better you get to know them personally is going to give you a hands up or a step up on how to teach that particular child. So we're talking about safety and everything, and with the recent school shootings that happened in the spring and everything, I'm sure that districts are basically putting a very, very good practice or a very good safety procedure in place. In Chicago, there has been quite a few, and then certain schools have. In Chicago, there was basically something that came down from the district, but at the same time, there were certain smaller districts within the city that also initiated their own practices, as to turning out the lights, keeping your door locked, And even, I think even some of the schools, basically where there were no doors that were locked before, they have instituted where the teachers can put locks on their doors, being locked, a locked door. I remember that skeleton key that used to open up a lot of doors in the building because of the buildings being so old. But now there is a type of thing where if, they are suggesting that teachers keep their doors locked and they basically not keep their windows covered. Usually a lot of classrooms have that opening window in the older buildings. I'm not sure what is in the newer buildings. I was always in the old building, but they're not keeping that glass, covered, so that you can see who's passing in and out of the hallways and so forth. And then we also practiced a safe place in our classroom where the children would be on the floor closest to the nearest wall. This was also like a tornado drill also, but what they're finding is that this is something that to keep our children safe from intruders coming in wanting to harm our children or harm teachers. It was necessary for them to practice a drill within the classroom. And then we did have code red, code orange, and the codes would change monthly or every 3 months so that the teachers would know exactly if there was something happening in the building where they had to go into particular safety mode. And that's, I think, is something that's good. That should be something that should be taking place in every school in the United States. In the United States, it's something that needs to be happening. So they say how to help students feel safe and connected. Then even talking about how do you feel, as things happen. We don't want to bring kids down to the point where they are feeling sad about the different things. But sometimes that particular situation in Texas still, affects some children. So you need to be able to address those. And you want to let those children know that I am here to protect you. I am here to care about you. I care about you. And we're going to do this together. And that you will be surprised how much of that assurance helps children to do, to perform better. So that was one thing. And then let me say something else. It wasn't a lot. They were also talking about, let me see if I can find something else. They were saying that was the biggest, how to get teachers excited and motivated about what is ahead. In other words, we know that as schools open and as districts open, there's going to always be something new falling from the top. Okay, falling from the top for you to work out. And the unfortunate thing is that a lot of times companies go into the schools to promote their new product, whatever that product, being it's something in language arts or math or social studies or science, and they want to try. And sometimes, unfortunately, we end up being guinea pigs. But they want to test it on children and teachers to see if a particular product works. So some things come from outside, but then a lot of things fall from the district level to each particular school. The district level to each particular school. And those districts have a tendency of tapping into those schools that have basically had low scores in the past and have been struggling with different things within their building. So they're going to try to push and promote. At the same time, you have to listen to it because it might not be mandated, but in the meantime, it may be something that you can use within your classroom. But I have always been the type of teacher that if I felt something was not going to work, first of all, I would try it. Okay, but if I felt something was not working within my particular classroom, I would let my principal know about it. And then we could negotiate something. I did that personally. I did that personally for myself because I wanted to make it easier for my students to learn and easier for me for me to teach. And I basically didn't want to try out a lot of little this and that and A and B and C and D and nothing was sticking. Nothing was sticking. That's the way I saw it. So if you're going to give me something, tell me what the purpose of it is for. Tell me how it's supposed to help my students. Tell me how I'm supposed to use it. And is there a trial period as to when I can say it's not working? That's something key. You as an educator, you have that right. Is there a trial period for me to say, and it may be a conversation that you talk to your principal or your administrator about separately, being not within a group, but I say, what is the trial period on this when I can decide that this may not work for my particular children? And it may have worked for the children I had last year. It may work for the children I'm going to have in the future, but this particular group, that particular program doesn't seem to be working. So what am I obligated to do? And what's the trial period? And can I, manipulate it to make it work if there's something that I don't see immediately working? And these are the conversations that you as an educator can have throughout the whole school year. I set up a tremendous relationship with my AP and my principal. And it did help because they taught across, they taught across the hall from me. We were basically teaching the same classes. But at the same time, I developed a relationship where I felt I could go in and talk to you about anything that was basically affecting me as a teacher. And I did that on a regular basis. It was a standing joke. Oh, really, you didn't see me this week? I guess everything's going fine. I said, correct. And we would take it from there. Something else. They said, I saw something about how I'm putting the joy back into teaching this year. And even if the summer ends and the pace of the school year speeds up, the educator panelists reminded their colleagues that one way to continue energizing themselves is to think about why they went into education. I've been talking about that all the time. Why did you go into the field of education? And, what drove you to be an educator? And you know what? Sometimes I have been listening to quite a few podcasts and everything. A lot of times people mention that one educator that had an impact in their life. And they can easily remember that particular teacher. I was in a bank the other day and we were talking about education and everything. And the personal banker I was talking about, he remembered at least 3 of his teachers. He remembered his second grade teacher. He remembered the ones that that he didn't like too well, but he did remember the ones that made an impact on his life. And he just enjoyed being in their classrooms. He enjoyed coming to that classroom every day. I remember my kindergarten teacher, Miss Fortuneberry, and I guess it's because of her name, but at the same time, she made a tremendous impact on me as an educator. And she was the way she just loved on us as children, and her students made me want to do the same thing. And so I became an educator. So a lot of people are wanting you to go back in these first couple of weeks as you relax and take it easy. Don't push it. Don't push it. Don't panic. Don't become, anxiety. This is the time to be introduced to back to your classroom. This is the time to introduce yourself back to why you went into teaching. Introduce yourself to those 30 or 28 individuals in your building, in your classroom, and make it a one-on-one, build those relationships. Take the first 3 weeks to build relationships in your building. Take the first 3 weeks to build relationships in your classroom. That's what's going to give you what you need. And before you know it, it'll be October, November. Time for a break. So they're saying what motivated them is to understand why they went into education in the first place. And then this next and last final piece of this, it says what teachers need most from their administrators. One big theme that emerged from the discussions is that teachers really need in time to collaborate, to reflect, to focus on the students. I'm talking about this, to talk to each other and to talk to parents, but they also need a partnership built on trust with their principals. I just got through talking about that, and I hadn't even read this ahead of time. This is what I did in my building, and I didn't do it as a group. I did it as an individual. I became very selfish about me knowing my principal and my AP, because that was important for me, for them to understand who I was and for me to understand who they were. Of course, like I said before, it helped because they taught with me and we taught across and went on field trips and things together. But even after that particular principal left, I still went in on a regular basis. And of course, I asked permission first. Can I come in and see you and just, drop in a chair and talk sometimes, about things I'm concerned about? And one principal, mostly the way I came to them, in a non-threatening manner, it helped me establish a very positive relationship with them. And so they were happy to see me, because a lot of times I wasn't sharing struggles. I was sharing triumphs. I was sharing successes that happened in my classroom. Anything that I felt was a good thing, I would go and share that too. And then, of course, there were concerns. So I wasn't always the individual going in there with a gripe. No, I didn't do that. I went in there with successes. I said, "Oh, Miss So-and-so, let me show you what I taught today and how my students how they received it and how they accomplished it." And she would love those things. And then I would share it in the lunchroom, and I would just share it with individuals, and we would put it out on the outside bulletin boards just to let people know that we were having successes in my classroom, which is something that you want to pump up, because it pumps you up too. It validates who you are. It validates you as an educator. It validates saying that I'm good at my job. I am great at my job. I'm the best. Okay, I'm the best. And if nobody else give me accolade, I'm going to give myself an accolade. I'm going to pump myself up. And that's what it takes in order for you to keep going back day after day after day, doing exciting things in that classroom. They said that it was a principal from Bridgewater Elementary in Northfield. One of the ways she empowers her teachers is by helping them support the students. Bingo, bango. And another thing that teachers love administrators to do is that when we have that one parent that may be having some issues, they listen to that one parent, but at the same time, they bring in that educator, because the parent may not know what's going on in that particular classroom, but the principal understands what's going on in that classroom. And then the teacher and the principal come together to make the parent understand why something is going on in that classroom. There, for many, many, many years, during the first report card pickup, the parents would come to me. "Oh, my daughter needs to be sitting in the front. Oh, they need to be sitting," and I knew that couldn't happen. I couldn't have 30 children sitting in the front. So what I would do is my principal called me in about that, said, "Well, Aurelia, some of the principal parents have been wanting to know how come you can't." I said, "Well, you know what? This is what I'm doing." I said, and this was part of my classroom management plan. I said, "I'll change seats every quarter. I'll change seats every quarter. And then I'll change seats for different activities and things." But what also proved to be very, very strategic and let parents know exactly how the classrooms are set up is when I put the children in groups. So there was not group number one and a group sitting in front of me. The children moved around, and that's how we how we were able to get them to work cooperatively with each other, which was a very, very good help in the classroom. So my principal backed me up in a lot of things as far as my parents were concerned. So if the parent felt they were going to get ahead in as to going into a particular office and have some concerns about me as an educator, my principal, and because I would have set the pace before that parent approached my administrator, I was protected. I'm going to be saying I was protected, and my principal was the go-between as far as me and that parent. And a lot of times, what my principals and administrators did, they backed their teachers up 150,000%. We had the scores to show that we were doing good things. We had the attendance to show that the children wanted to come, and so on and so forth. So to put yourself to put that parent hat on and not really understand what's going on, your principal can basically hit that happen. And then, of course, having some parent workshops and keeping the open communication with parents all throughout the year also helps parents understand what's going on in your classroom. I never had a problem with parents visiting and coming in and seeing, because whatever I was doing on yesterday, I'm probably going to do while you're sitting there. That's how assured as to who I was, and how careful about what I did, and there was no shame in my game. Let's put it that way. I did what I did. The behavior problems and issues and whatever, I would address them the same way. Because your mom is sitting here, if you're acting a particular way, I'm still going to address you the same way, even if your mom is sitting there. But throughout everything, though, my administrators really supported their teachers from kindergarten all the way to up to 8th grade. We had the fantastic support. And if you're in a building like that, that's where you want to stay. If you're in a building like that, that's where you want to stay. Like I said before, when going out looking for particular positions within schools and whatever, you have the right to ask those questions. You have the right to interview that principal in that school, like that principal has the right to interview you. So that works out also. So that's basically it. I'm going to be coming to you with quite a few articles and information from Education Week, along with things that are being coming through the news media and so on and so forth, because I feel that if we have a tendency of staying on top of things that are happening, we have a tendency, we will work better. We will work better. And then the motivation that helps you out throughout these times when you're back in the classroom is going to be a tremendous help also. So this is Aurelia Davis, the Educator's Educator. If you have a note or would like to send me a note or a message, please feel free to do so, to post at the bottom. I will truly get back to you as soon as I can. And then if you'd like to see what other things I do, visit my website, aureliadavis.com. And I would love to talk to you. Take care and have a great day. And I'll see you soon. Take care. Bye-bye.